You have this is Vernon Watson on another edition of Pensacola Wants to Know. We got a great show lined up for today. We're going to be talking about men's health, community health, and particularly men's health. I got a great show lined up for you, and a whole great panel of men and experts on the subject of this. And I'm gonna let Rick. Who gonna introduce? I got everybody here introducing themselves. We got Jerry McIntosh, and I got Dr. Earl Cartwright. I got Chief Alexander. I got Rick Anderson, and also Mrs. Sandra. I mean, I call it just Mrs. Valerie Boyd with Sandra Faye Herb. Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing?
Yeah.
Oh, great. How about
Good.
yourself?
Good.
All righty. I know that a lot what's coming up in August. We're going to do a health fair, as I understand it, and you're going to particularly focus on prostate cancer and so forth. But we're going to talk about that as well as a lot of other issues tonight. So, Rick, Dr. Crossrider, and whomever wants to lead off, go ahead.
Uh, yeah, let me start with the health fair is on August the 23rd at Brownville Community Center, and the times are from 10 to 2 o'clock. We will be focusing on men's health, but we're doing other things thanks to the Northwest Florida Health Council. I think they're out of Panama City. They're going to be doing diabetic screening, blood pressure, hypertension, and stuff, and vision. So they're going to be some things that covers male and female and children. So we want the community to come out, get screened, get your health checked. This is free, absolutely free. Okay, so right now, as far as men health, we're talking about prostate cancer, and Dr. Crosswhite gonna go in and tell you what we got going on.
Hello, everyone. With community health, we have a big effort in front of us in order to reach our community. And there are many deficits that we are experiencing as a people, generally speaking, but also with African American males. And the studies actually show for people under 50 or men under 50, the three main causes of death in our community for those under 50 is homicide, accidents, which includes your motor vehicle accidents, overdose, suicides, and heart disease. And for men over 50, we're looking at heart disease, cancer, and the three main types of cancers that we are facing. Number one is lung, prostate is number two, and colon cancer is number three. And the third major cause of death in African American men over 50 is cerebral vascular disease or strokes. Now, when I look at this, really the undercurrent for all of us really kind of stems with even at a very young age, dealing with our morale or spirituality. And what I mean by that, we are quickly introduced to worldly things, which will encompass a lot of behaviors. And we learn these behaviors early, maintain these behaviors, and these behaviors lead to these causes of death. But to subway into the topic tonight in dealing with men's health pertaining to cancer and prostate, one of the main things that I see is the outreach, the lack of access, and actually amongst our own community of actually seeking to get help.
Amen. Amen.
So if we can make some headway to improve in all of these conditions, but dealing tonight with prostate cancer, as a group of people, we need to seek the help. And education is one of the things to kind of stir people to be able to seek the help. You know, when guys come to me, most times we tend to come for alternative reasons. A lot of times I find with us, if we're having some issues on urinating or performance, sexual performance, it's kind of the time when we may seek to get help.
Yeah.
And for the provider that you're seeing, if they are astute enough to make sure in checking at that opportunity the health of the prostate.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And four. That's huge. That's a huge amount of black men with prostate cancer. And they were saying that in the research that I was doing, they were saying that black men usually, as you said earlier, don't even want to even even talk about the idea of going to have their prostate checked. And most of the time when they do, is most of the time it's too late. They are either either in different stages, and they find out after they, like you say, they cannot perform sexually, or their water stream is, they can barely go to the bathroom. So I know you were saying, and you're right. The thing that we need to do is to make sure people are educated. But I think getting over the fact that having your prostate checked is not that huge of a deal. I mean, it is, but it's really not, because
I would say maybe 20 years ago, your physician would actually do the digital exam. And that's the physical insertion of the finger to check the prostate. Well, generally speaking, as African American male, we do not want that. And so that's the myth and fear of not proceeding on or coming to address prostate health. We've moved away from that. Okay, so basically now it's simply a blood draw to check your prostate specific antigen or your PSA level. Once that's done, then we proceed on to have that discussion to develop the relationship with the person who had their PSA and have that discussion before any thought of actually examining the prostate by doing a digital exam. So, in other words, we do the blood work, your PSA level is normal or within the normal range. And that normal range is generally thought of for the PSA level to be less than 4. Okay. So if your level is less than 4, generally speaking, your prostate may be healthy. And I say that because there are some caveats of knowing what your level is. Okay. A lot of times the PSA level may be less than 1. We have to be concerned of what we call the velocity, which is the rise of that initial number you get for your prostate. For an example, someone comes in and their PSA level is a 1 this year. And that's what's so very important, that we remember what your number is. Do not allow anyone to say your level is okay. Give me my number. Okay. Know your number. Because the velocity of raise of that PSA can indicate we may have a problem. For example, I typically say if it's a raise within from 1 year to another greater than 0.5. So for example, my level is a 1 today. Next year I go and get checked and I'm a 2. It's greater than a 0.5 raise. There's something else that we begin to look at. Well, usually when you get a prostate blood level, you get a total PSA level. That's that number between less than 4 that you would like for it to be. There are some other numbers we look at, and it's something called a free PSA percent. Okay. And the significance of that actually kind of helps point if we are dealing with a cancer or if it's some other process. Some people, a lot of patients may ask, well, doc, what do you mean by free PSA percent? Well, here's the example I would like to give. If you have a tree that's full of, we're saying, apples. Well, and some of those apples fall to the ground. Those apples that fall to the ground is considered free. So in this case, with the prostate, that PSA level total is basically the prostate, this chemical, this protein is actually a protein. It's bound to other proteins. So it's attached. Using the example of the tree, those apples that are already on the branches, they are attached. The apples that fail, in this case, the free PSA would be the apples on the ground. So total PSA is that particular number. And then you have free PSA, which are basically proteins that are not bound to the tree. That free PSA percent, when it's low, and the number for that should be greater than 15. If it's lower, that free PSA, that indicates that you're at a greater risk of having cancer. So that may mean your total PSA might be a 3, but that free PSA percent, if that's low, there's a good chance that you may have cancer, which will require further testing. A lot of people are not very familiar with that, but that's one of the things that we do look at. It's called a free PSA percent. And that's part of the testing that goes on when you go get a PSA level.
This is the first time I heard of that component of the free. Yeah, yeah.
Tell them I'll call them back.
A physician that's really concerned about your well-being. I think Dr. Crosswright mentioned that. And the other thing is that having this conversation, this is one of the reasons why I told Rick that I would participate, because number one, I'm a prostate cancer survivor. Next year will be 10 years that I have been cancer-free from prostate cancer, and they're constantly watching my PSA levels. But one of the things that brings this whole message home as to why this screening is so important is because the man is taking the lead role on a mindset of health, the quality of health in his family. And if he's grossly neglecting his own health, chances are those poor habits of self-care is going to trickle down into the rest of the family. And how I found out I had prostate cancer was that my physician was paying attention to the numbers, and I was adamant about going in annually for a checkup. And certainly it's the blood work that gave the indicator that my PSA had jumped up to a number that obviously indicated and warranted further investigation. Early detection is key. Going in as a matter of routine and giving attention to your health is important. Being overweight is something you need to be concerned about, because there's research that says that has a lot to do with how your body changes and how some of these cancerous cells can develop and build up. Cardiovascular health, making sure your vascular system is, if you don't have problems with high blood pressure and clogging other arteries, you need to maintain that. And that means you need to have a closer relationship with your primary physician. And that physician need to be and have your best health as the most important issue. And that's why I appreciate Brother Crosswright being here, and then Vernon, you taking the lead role and bringing this thing to the forefront, because after I had gone through cancer treatment, I didn't realize how many men that had actually waited to the very last minute to go find out. And what shocked me is the number of brothers younger than I that passed away because they gave up after the first round may have fallen through and the cancer came back. They didn't go back and re-engage in the process. They just sat there and say, well, some said I got to die from something. And I'm like, look, man, if it's not my time to go, I'm going to do everything I can, you know.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
tell people all the time,
Yep.
I'm tired of a lot of things, but living is not
Yep.
even on the list. So I go every year and
Yep.
I make sure that I understand my blood work. I paid more attention in the last 7 to 8 years to my health than I have in my entire life. So I'm talking to younger brothers 20 and 30 years younger than I am, and I'm really pushing them to take a better interest in their health. You'll take the stress off of your spouses. You'll take the stress off of your children, because children are stressed out because a lot of time men are not paying attention and doing the right thing regarding their health. So I think the things that have already been mentioned is the reason why this health fair is important. I think it's time for the black men to lead the way and start to tear down some of these health disparities that exist in black families. And yes, some of us got longevity in our genes, but if we don't take care of our bodies, it's not going to even matter. It's going to be a mute issue. So I'm, for one, is trying to champion in my own family. I'm going to a family reunion next month, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about, is taking and investing time and energy in our health. So I did, like I said, I appreciate being invited to be on, and I certainly, so far, that everything that has been said has been on point. It drives the message home. We need to really invest in this event, and so that's what's going to be my horn from now on until it happens.
So, Chief, when you and I was at that event, you start telling me about, That's how I found out you had it, and I'm glad you're here. But you told me you did a diet change, correct?
Yes, I start to look at um, the quality because life is in the blood, and I start to look at dietary changes, and I remember I have I had an acute problem with a nerve that sends a signal to my heart, and it required me to have a pacemaker to straighten it out. So the doctor that installed it, he told me, he said, you need to look at going to a more vegetarian type of diet. He said, I'm not talking about becoming a vegetarian. He says, but include more fruits and vegetables and nuts in your vitamin in your diet. And so then I start to do research on your blood type because I heard somebody say that if you eat according to your blood type, you give your body a better fighting chance against anything that's going wrong in the body. And
That's
so I
interesting.
found out that my blood type was A positive, which means that my blood thrives on more of a plant-based or vegetarian type diet. So I started to include more vegetables and fruits and nuts in my diet. And then the meats that I do eat, they're quality meats, and I try to stay away from a lot of processed stuff. Now, let me tell you something. Let's get it. And that doctor said this in Virginia. He says, "I'm not telling you don't eat anything that you enjoy eating, but you gotta do your due diligence. Give your body a fighting chance
Right,
to
right.
be able to recover and to continuously nourish itself by eating the right things." So I started including more celery. I love hot wings, but I started including more celery than I did the hot wings. And
Okay.
certainly found out celery did is an anti-inflammatory. I started using a lot of juices. I include a lot of ginger, lemon, honey, garlic in my diet. And when you look at all the natural spices that our parents and our grandparents cook with, you do your research, all of those spices and seasonings are good for your body. So now I'm into getting stuff that's organically grown and using it in my salads, using it in the way I cook. So, and man, there's some awesome chefs around here. When you start getting them stirred up about the different spices that they can use that's good and healthy, it to me, it's about investing in your own health by eating better. And so when I start to do that, I start to feel better. And certainly, I lost quite a bit of weight from an incident that happened. But the thing about it, I've been able to maintain that weight loss for the most part. And like I said, even now, just being consistent in the exercise and not trying to overdo it. You know, staying hydrated. I put good sea salt in my diet. It helps me out. My blood pressure is consistently low. I'm hoping one day that being consistent in investing in my health will take me completely off of blood pressure medicine. But again, it's a sacrifice, and to me, it's a sacrifice worth making because, like I said, I'm not tired of living. I want to live as long as I possibly can. So I'm willing to invest that time and my money in the right place because I figure if I eat crazy and don't care about the process, and steroids and chemicals that go into food,
Yeah.
then that money that I could have uh, spent on a better quality of food, I'm going to spend it on the co-payments that it's going to take to get medical treatment at the last minute. So you're just
Yeah.
shifting where you spend the money. I figure I get the
Yeah.
best of my investment by eating quality rather than, just not really being concerned about it and then paying for it with your life as well as your money in the long run. So I'm all about the quality of health. We went to St. John Divine last month. I took about 8 men from our church. And, it's one thing when they're enlightened. And one of the guys said, "Man, I thought about my 9-year-old and what would happen to me if I just suddenly died because I wouldn't take care of myself." And he tried to go to every screening, but the initial screening that he took, it kind of negated him from being able to go to the other screening. So he's going to be at this health fair coming up in August. He's going to have his whole family there. So I want to champion this. I want to use every breath that I can, every bit of influence I can, because I see the stress on the women. I see the stress on the children when you're sitting in the emergency room and they're hoping that you can pull through it. So I don't like going to the hospital. I'm being honest with you. So I'm going to spend as much of my time and energy trying to stay out of there. And when I see Dr. Crosswright, it's because we're passing on the street and we're saying, "Hey, how you doing, man? Good to see you. You're looking good." That's why I don't want him passing in the ER and looking at me. I don't want that.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
And so I just go ahead.
With what Chief Alexander just mentioned, the things that we learn when we maybe have been diagnosed and go through the process.
Yes, sir.
That wealth of knowledge and that change that you made, if we can pass that on to these younger folks,
yes,
and because that diet you were talking about, that we grew up on from our grandparents, that was passed on to our parents, which was passed on to us, and it's generational, really bad eating habits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have to change that, but our younger folks need to be informed.
Yes.
About that, because of our bad eating habits, it leads to the disease process that when we're in our 50s and 60s starts to raise its ugly head.
Yes.
Now we have to deal with.
Yes.
So part of the answers or solutions in the things that we are dealing with in our health, prostate cancer is one, but it's many others. As African American men, where we really need to start leading, if we can, is trying to change those behaviors at a much earlier age.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, let me jump in, if you will, if everybody can hear me.
Yes.
I too am a prostate cancer survivor since 2007, and in fact, I'm still doing great. I get checked every 4 months for it, and so far so good. So since 2007. Now let me tell you this: one of the things you hadn't mentioned, and it's a good thing for me in one sense, was that I was warned early. Okay, I had there is a prostate cancer kind of runs in my family. My father died
Family
of
history.
prostate.
Family
Yeah, got a
history.
family
Yes.
history of it. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
And my brother also has it. But I had to start. They told me to start early. When I turned 40, I
Yes.
started testing for it, and I tested and tested and tested, and when I got about in my 60s, it actually showed up. So,
Yeah.
so if you got a family history of it, definitely start checking out. Like I told my son, he's 37 now. So when you get 40 years old, son, I want you to start making sure that you start testing as for prostate cancer. And Doc, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that we black men sometimes when it comes to
Yeah.
health, and we do it for some of the vainest, not do it for some of the vainest kind of reasons, because of the finger stick. They don't want to do that. It's crazy, because that. But encourage. I'm glad you said they got a new kind of test that maybe would help some of us that too embarrassed, don't want to be subjected to the finger stick kind of a test. But it is manageable. Okay, so we want
Yes.
folks to get out ahead of it and get out early on this.
Yeah. Dr. Crosswright.
Yes.
Chief said something very pertinent. Like never let it be said that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But Chief said something that was interesting. He's dieting according to his blood type. Can you speak on that?
No, I would have to do some further study and research on that. So
Yeah.
I can't really. That was very interesting.
To you too, huh?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I might say that, do you know how hard it is to find out what your blood type is?
No.
You know,
It's, it's not.
you can
Okay.
you can find out. I found out by donating blood, and I wanted to know what my blood type was, so they told me. But when you look through your medical records, it's coded. You may look at it and not know what you're seeing, but when you ask, you never get a straight answer about what your blood type is. And so when I start to look at how bodies respond to cancer treatment, it has a lot to do with your blood type. And that's why some people respond to certain types of treatment better than others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's important for us to be attuned to, number one, knowing more about ourselves. You should know your blood type. I think it might be beneficial. So now I want to know why. So not only do I look at my blood type, but I'm also looking at drinking quality water. Because if your body is 80% water, and if you lose just 5% of that, and you're looking at being almost unconscious from being dehydrated, not drinking enough water is an issue that also can exacerbate your health problems. And I hear a lot of elderly people say that, well, the doctor says I got to drink more water. But if you're not drinking a quality water, then you're just flushing whatever benefit of nutrients you had in your body, you're flushing it out because it's not being replaced with anything that's of any substance to you. So you got to look at quality water, not just drinking water, but having a quality of water in your body because it's important. So I think it, and a lot of times, if I wasn't seeing results, then I wouldn't dare get and start telling people this, but I'm seeing the results. And what I'm saying is I'm not where I want to be, but man, I tell you what, I do good. I just come back from Disney with my daughter and her children, her and her husband, and man, I rode rides that I would never imagine myself at 65 riding, and I really enjoyed myself. I look forward to going back. But I am E.F. Hutton when it comes down to sitting down and talking to doctors, and I'm more interested in doctors that express a genuine concern for my health. I mean, tell me the truth. Don't give me this. You read a lot of stuff in journals, and it's pretty much general stuff. But your health is so important to you that you need to know to the detail. I'm not like everybody else. I am an individual, and I need to have an individual health plan for my life. And it's something that my children and I talk about. I talk to relatives. I talk to young men, young women that I come in contact with. Be attuned to your health. Know if it for women, get those mammograms. You know what? It was embarrassing years ago. A young physician, female physician, taught me how to test myself for testicular cancer. And because
Mhm.
it was in the man
Yeah.
cave, they wouldn't talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But man, these cancers can sneak up on you, and all of a sudden you land on your back and you're trying to figure out what could I have done? Well, how about some simple things like listen, learn. So because the sister was willing to tell me and several other people, I don't know what they did with it, but I know when things start feeling strange or you feel bad, it's time to get checked. Have a
Correct.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since we got a sister on here, since the only one on here today, we got Miss Valerie Boyd.
Yeah.
Valerie, we want you to jump in here and talk
Oh,
about it from a female's perspective as well, and also from a female perspective, well, getting these men to do what they need to do.
okay. Well, I would say, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. But I would say that as an herbalist working in my store, I get all age groups of guys that come in. And a lot of them will say, I went and got checked. My numbers was high. What do you have? Right? What do you have to help my numbers go down? So I think it's important to this particular herb I do want to bring up called saw palmetto berries.
Mhm.
So I custom blend them a tea that has some studies behind it. And one of the most well-studied herb is saw palmetto berries, organic saw palmetto berries. And so I will either blend them a tea with that or some stinging nettle or some other herbs, and also get them started on sea moss gel so that they can get the nutrients and things that they need. But there are some younger guys that have literally bragged to me and say, "Oh, I don't go to the doctor. I don't get sick."
Yeah.
And it really shocks me when they say that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you need to go to the doctor. You definitely need to go. You're making me nervous." You know,
Yeah.
because regardless
Yes.
of what I put in this tea, I don't have that type of testing. And
Right.
don't wait too late.
Right.
Right.
You know, like, okay, I can help you get on a more holistic path with some natural things that, you know, that I feel will help. But I'm no doctor. So you need to go see one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think I kind of shame them when I say that.
Yeah.
But I will say that I'm pretty proud of how many Black men come into my shop wanting to make some small changes, because I
Yeah.
think that natural and holistic approach is on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that people want, like he was talking about, the plant-based diet. You know, so I think more people are moving towards a healthier lifestyle. But I would just say, like, they will giggle at me when I say, "Hey, do some Kegel exercises," and they will say, "That's for women."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, no, it's not." You know, and they're like, "How am I
Yes.
supposed to do that?" I'm like, "Hey, well, when you're urinating, cut the stream off.
Yeah.
Stop the urine from coming
Yeah.
out, and
Yeah.
then do it again, and then
Yeah.
stop,
Yeah.
and that's a Kegel exercise." And they're
Yeah.
like, "I never knew men can do Kegel exercise." So, you know, once they're interested and engaged to hear more,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that usually they will get the things that I think would support them. But my bigger concern is, are they getting tested?
Yes.
Yes.
Because there are lots of much older guys that come in after their levels are really high and they're scared.
Correct.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
Jerry,
so that's
go ahead, Val.
so that's what I was gonna say. I'm really glad that younger guys, well, everybody, but specifically younger Black men, are starting to be interested in a holistic approach and interested in herbs, interested in sea moss and different things like that.
Drink
And I'm always really excited when somebody comes back.
Yeah.
That means, because if you're coming back, that means you drank it.
Yeah.
You know, because if you get a month supply and I see you back, I know that you're using it. So, but that's really what I wanted to hit on, is there are some natural things that are out there. Yeah, so there are some natural remedies out there, but I wouldn't say to anyone, "Hey, if you drink this tea with this saw palmetto berries and these nettles, then you don't have to go to the doctor." Like, you need to go and be checked.
Right.
And like, I really have to kind of be firm with them as if they're my son, you know, about the importance of doing that. So, and then
Go ahead, Val. I'm sorry.
and
Jerry.
I also plan on for the what is the name of this event that we got coming up?
Community health.
What is it?
Community health.
Community health
Health
fair.
Fair.
Okay. Well, I'm planning on bringing blending a custom tea specific to prostate health to bring out, because I don't have one. I have teas for all types of stuff, but I don't have one for that. But now that we're having this discussion, I'm going to blend a herbal tea specifically for prostate health. And,
Also, Val, if you can, bring something for diabetic health.
Yeah.
oh, I got that already. And And believe it or not, like my customers, a lot of people are so skeptical until they go back to the doctor.
Yeah.
And say, oh my gosh, this stuff is working. And then they'll tell somebody else, one of their buddies or somebody, and then they'll bring them in. So definitely, I'm going to bring something for everyone. A lot of people are starting to hear about soursop leaves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard of that, but soursop leaf tea. I'm not sure how the doctor feels about this, but bitter apricot kernels. So there are lots of studies that show that these are some natural things. Even pumpkin seeds, instead of snacking on whatever it is that's unhealthy, you snack on some pumpkin seeds. And reducing sugar intake is a major thing too. Like, how when we were talking about developing bad habits.
Yes.
I think we were the only race. Well, I don't want to say the only race, but we were one of the only races that would dump a whole half a bag of sugar in some Kool-Aid, for our drinks and pass it out to our children. And, that's very unhealthy. I always try to get people to substitute that sugar with some monk fruit,
Yeah.
because there are some, taste things that don't have an aftertaste that taste sweet.
Yeah.
And there are some substitutions, the easy substitutions that can be made for a healthier lifestyle,
Now,
Yeah. So that's
now, Val, you mentioned you didn't know how the doctor felt about this, and this doctor and a lot of doctors have been trained traditional medicine.
right.
I'm not opposed or against. I'm not aware
Yes.
of the things that you do, which is very interesting. Okay.
Yes.
And I guess some of the younger generation is more so exploring into natural products.
Right.
One of the big things about that, and probably another large reason why patients really don't visit the physician, is the lack of trust, okay,
Right.
of the traditional medicine. So this is so interesting, and it's good to have a source to rely on to be educated in that.
Okay.
Yes.
I got a question for Doc, but I want to make also make people aware that the Nation of Islam under Elijah Muhammad had a book called How to Eat to Live. And in that book, it talked about a lot of the things that we are talking about now. But this was written years ago, and we didn't, because we didn't want to give up some of the things that we were eating and how it affected us. And like Doc said, some of the things that we brought with us, into our new life is now catching up with us. And
Right.
so we are suffering from it because we didn't know. Once you know, then you owe yourself a better lifestyle, and lifestyle changes always help. I had lung issues, and lung cancer. Really, I was 58 years old. Exercising in the gym, working out, and never thought that I would, end up with that kind of issue. And I was in intensive care for like 14 days or something like that. And, with tubes and stuff all coming all out, but, I thought I was eating right, living good, doing the things that I thought was right. But, it was certain things I was eating that didn't agree with my system, that I had to realize that I had to change totally my lifestyle and to make my life so I could live to be where I am today at the age of 73. So the change helped me to live. Doc, I wanted to ask you a question. How does testosterone help with your prostate? Or do it have any effect at all?
Oh, most definitely. Testosterone actually stimulates the gland, the prostate gland, to produce the PSA that we're talking about. Testosterone actually also, so it stimulates the cells of the prostate gland to grow. So some of the cancers cells that come from the prostate, in other words, the PSA level is high, speculating that we have prostate cancer going on. The result of the testosterone actually stimulates that prostate cancer growth. Okay. So one of the measures to counter that is to decrease the testosterone level.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes part of the treatment is getting estrogen shots. Men getting estrogen shots to counteract that testosterone level. So we have to be careful sometimes, and especially in folks trying to build muscle, of going and getting testosterone injections or to help build muscle. What you're also doing is stimulating that prostate gland to grow. Correct. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it is quite concerning, and I see a lot of that. When African American males we are viewed differently, okay? And unfortunately, it's a lot of physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, the so-called primary care provider. A lot of times, the concern, the education to African American males, I find to pale vastly. Okay. Unless in this day and time, a person is astute enough to bring it to the physician's attention. It should not go that way at all. Okay. So basically, in today's climate, as a patient, you go in, and what a lot of folks that I see, and it's going to get worse, especially some of the changes of the cost of medicine and politically what's going on now.
Wow.
Okay, of not being able to afford care. So it's going to be a lot of people. If you do not know what to ask of them, you are not going to be told. Okay? So basically, the climate is today, you go in and tell me, what's wrong with you and what you want so that you can get in and get out. I'm speaking of the provider. And it's so unfortunate now. I struggle, everyone, with noticing the climate of decreased access. I'm available to see folks, but I am blocked by insurance companies of being a provider for that insurance. You must be invited in as a provider. You have to apply for a contract to provide care with these insurance companies. And these insurance companies are now picking and choosing practices that's usually affiliated with your big corporations. Why? Because it's more patients and it's more dollars. Okay? And because of that occurring, people are flocking to the bigger, nicer places. Those providers are well overloaded on the number of patients they have to see a day. And so it's a quick visit. On those quick visits, you're very likely not to be educated, okay, on what's going on with you. So the dynamic is now, as a patient, tell me what's wrong with you. I can address that quickly and you have a good day. Okay? Be careful. And there's many things that I can share of now of the climate of healthcare dealing with these insurance companies and dealing with the color of your skin as far as getting less than what we should receive.
All right, fellas, we got about 5 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and try to wrap things up in a nice little package here
Well, I
within the
had,
next 5 minutes. Go ahead, Val.
I got a question. So can you explain a little bit about DHT? So I read a lot about it whenever I'm looking at something that involves prostate. It's talking about the testosterone converting to DHT. So what is DHT and how is that important to the prostate?
Okay. Again, the DHT is a chemical conversion of testosterone. Okay. The main component is testosterone. It's a dehydro, and I can't remember exactly, but it's a form of testosterone. And you can have a conversion where you actually, the DHT is cleaved off and you have the testosterone product. So it's like a precursor to testosterone, okay? Which is more pure form. The DHT is not, it's a precursor. That chemical DHT falls off, well, the DH falls off, and you have testosterone, which is more of an active product.
All right, I guess we're gonna wrap it up here. What we want to talk about, Ricky, we want to make sure that people understand that there is going to be a community health fair, and Rick, you probably most suited to talk to us about that before we wrap it up, okay? Yeah, I saw the Zumba class from 10 to 12. Well, that's good.
going to be some other entities that may want to join, but this is all about the community. And I really should have titled like Val said, and I had a title for it, and the title would have been, Is My Health Important?
Mhm.
Is my health important? Yeah, so yeah, we want y'all to come out, get screened. Oh, the AKAs will be there. They will be doing voter registration. 100 Black men will be there. They're going to be helping us with this health fair also. So we're expecting a big turnout.
Fantastic.
All right.
Vernon, before you go, I wanted to ask Val, where's a place that where you come get some alternative
Yeah.
medicine?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so it's on Old Palafox. The address is 9216 North Palafox Street, but it's on Old Palafox behind Walmart on Highway 29. About a block and a half before you get to KFC on 9 Mile Road. We're right
Yeah.
next to a restaurant called the Lobster Cage.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
open Monday through Saturday from 10 to 5.
The name of it is,
Sonia Faye's Botanicals.
yes.
All right. I
Good deal.
appreciate it. Guys, I tell you what, we had a very interesting conversation today, and I think we should continue this on
Absolutely.
a routine basis,
Yeah.
if y'all don't mind.
Absolutely.
And because I think there's very little effort is put on Black people's health, and in particular Black men's health. So I'm willing to commit myself to having a show dedicated to
Yes.
that. If you guys are willing to do this, and we
Yes.
can do it as often as y'all see necessary, that we can do it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
All for it.
We appreciate it, Vernon.
Yes.
All righty then. Well, folks, I tell you what, this is it. There's for this edition of the show. We'll come back next week. I mean next month or whenever we come back again. But just don't forget, the important thing is go to this health on August 23rd, 2025. There's going to be a
Absolutely.
community health fair at the Brownsfield Community
Center.
Center there, and so
Yes.
you go and get the information that you need. I want to thank everybody for coming on. Okay, Chief and Doc and Val and Jerry and who else did I miss? I miss anybody else?
Rick.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
said,
really.
Oh, you know, okay. The important right. The coordinator, Rick.
Hey, Vernon, the address is 3200 West DeSoto.
Yeah, I got it on the okay, 13
Okay.
West DeSoto. Great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all again on another edition of Pensacola Wants to Know.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.